Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first series of AWEF, which speaks to a number of subjects that are important to us as women in private equity and in investments. Today, we'll be having our ABSIP AWEF, Women-Owned Fund Manager chat. We'll give it a few minutes for more people to join, and we'll start our chat. Good evening once again. My name is Mametja Moshe. I am the CEO of Moshe Capital, but today I come in my capacity as president of AWEF, which is ABSIP Women in Focus. Thank you for joining us this evening. I know it's quite late for some people and early for Nadine, who is in the US. And today we'll be talking about private equity. Today is the first of a number of series that us at AWEF will be running. And today we'll talk about private equity, mentorship, but more importantly, also get to understand about the new program that SAVCA is putting out that supports women private equity funds. I'm just going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll make sure that we answer as many questions as we can tonight. We have an hour together. Hopefully everybody will have fun. And yeah, so I'll start with Melanie, and then Nadine can introduce herself, Buyisiwe, then Moushmi.
Good evening, everybody, and Mametja, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here with ABSIP Women in Focus this evening. My name is Melanie de Nysschen, and I am representing SAVCA this evening. And I also act as the program manager for our latest program that we've launched and that we're super excited about. Women Empowerment, Mentoring and Incubation Fund Management Program, known as We Greater Than Me, or WEMI for short.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Nadine Mentor. I'm a Senior Managing Director and Partner with MiDA Advisor. We are a global financial and transaction advisory firm based out of the US with offices in South Africa as well as in Kenya. Very excited to be here this evening. Thank you so much, ABSIP. Very excited for Women in Focus. Very excited to talk about our We Greater Than Me program in partnership with SAVCA, funded by USA, the United States Agency for International Development. I'm really excited to learn more about some of the fund managers that are a part of this panel and a part of this discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Buyisiwe Makhunga. I'm here representing Kazi Capital as Kazi Capital's managing executive. Kazi Capital is a 100% Black female-owned fund manager, and we have journeyed, with SAVCA as well through their inaugural fund manager development program. I'm happy to be here to impart some of the lessons that I've learned along my journey, and happy to take questions as well to, assist other, female fund managers that are looking to embark on this journey.
Thanks, Bui.
Hi, everyone. I'm Moushmi Patel from Sanari Capital. Sanari Capital is a woman-led and woman-owned private equity firm. We're based out of Johannesburg, and similar to Bui, I went through the FMDP program and also would like to share my experience, not only on the program, but just as being a woman-owned fund manager and what that's like. So please go ahead and ask as many questions as you have. Thanks.
Thank you, Moushmi. On the first part of today's series, we will start with a better understanding of the SAVCA program. I will hand over to Melanie and Nadine to just tell us more about WEMI and how everyone can apply, how it came about, and what your goals and aims with WEMI is. Over to you, Melanie.
Nadine, do you want to start?
Sure, I will start. First of all, this program is a great program that shows partnership, the value of partnership. And MiDA Advisors is really excited to be partnered with SAVCA as our on-the-ground partner. MiDA Advisors is a implementer for USAID. And so USAID is really keen, and we have our Southern Mission that is supporting this and really focused on women empowerment. And one of their initiatives is to help mobilize opportunities for women empowerment, women economic development, and women financial inclusion. And we have seen gender equality moving forward, but we have not seen that as much, and I think our panelists will talk about that, as much in the private equity space. And so MiDA put forth a proposal to USAID to help support the private equity landscape for women-owned and women-funded and women-managed fund managers in Southern Africa. And so this proposal first went out a year ago. Now it's almost a year later, and we're excited to have the applications out. We are going to talk about the call for applications, which is due on May 10th. We're excited to have this be, again, funded by USAID, and really looking at increasing the number of investable, women-owned and women-managed fund managers in Southern Africa. This program combines both the technical assistance support as well as the investment support. And we've seen, and Melanie will talk about this, the importance of having the investment support to help mobilize fund managers to be able to compete, to be able to deploy capital, and to be able to have that long-term sustainability to have an impact in the sector. And so what we will do is basically we will work together to bring the technical assistance that is needed to at least 10 to 12 fund managers. We want to have an impact on at least 30 professionals that are a part of those 10 to 12 fund managers over the 13-month program. And help mobilize the funding that's needed and bringing in the international community to look at women fund managers as viable fund managers to invest in. Melanie?
Thank you, Nadine. Yes, so we're so excited to be launching this program specifically focused on women-owned and managed fund managers. And also geographically widening the net slightly to Southern Africa as opposed to just South Africa. So as Nadine just said, the program will have two legs that it will focus on. The first leg will be the technical assistance, and then the second leg will be the investment support or facility. So I'll leave Nadine to speak about the investment facility and just quickly run through the technical support or assistance that we'll be rolling out. We'll look to commence rolling out technical assistance in June and finalize and have our last session there or a support session there at the end of November. That technical support really is focused on 4 key pillars. And the first key pillar is personal mastery and team dynamics. I think all the ladies here tonight will tell you that you need to choose your team very carefully and you need to master your emotions, because this is going to be a hard and a tough road. And if you're going to be walking it and attempting to build this fund management business, you're going to need people around you who share your values and have the ability to pick you up when you're down and vice versa. So our first component of the program really focuses, or the technical assistant really focuses on getting to know yourself a little bit better, getting to know your team members a little bit better, getting to know yourself within your team a little bit better, and understanding how you can best use the different personality strengths and weaknesses in the team in this private market space that you will be building your business. The second leg is focused on all the all the nitty-gritty stuff, and that's like fund structuring, legal terms, fund accounting and administration, all those icky stuff that you have to do in order to successfully run a fund management business. And that we found it's generally hard for emerging managers to get access to, or at least access to at affordable rates. So what we try and do through the technical assistance is provide access to content and support in that space through well-known names in the market, in the industry, who are willing to roll out the content on our behalf to our participants. One of the big focus areas there, of course, is ESG, or environmental, social and governance factors, something that's been very topical over the last decade and has really picked up traction over COVID-19, and in South Africa, where we've really seen all of those elements come into play over the pandemic and in our economic development plan. Our third leg is focused on strategy, and that's something we carry throughout the program, and that's a really important component of the program. It's understanding where you are at today, where you need to go, and what you need to do, and how to hold each other accountable in order to get to where you need to get to. And then finally, we focus on presentation skills, and that really is the ability to engage with the stakeholders in this space. And I'm sure the ladies will share with you this evening that LPs, or limited partners, are a special species, and you need to understand their language, and you need to understand what they're looking for. And ultimately, and most importantly, you need to know how to tell your story in such a way that they cannot say no, and that they trust you, as the business that is in the best possible position to bring the story to life. So that really is what our technical assistance focuses on, and we call on best in market to assist us to roll out those technical skills and support into the program.
Thank you, Melanie. And the second part of the program is the investment support facility. And this is really important because you can have the technical assistance, you can have, the hard skills and the soft skills, excelling in all of these areas. But if you do not have the access to the capital, if you don't have the relationships that helps with the capital, there's a non-starter. And so what we will do is tap into our network. MiDA has been working with USAID since 2016. We've been bringing delegation trips of LPs in the US. We also call them asset allocators, asset owners, to the continent since 2016, 2017. Unfortunately, we have not brought a group yet this year because of COVID, but we have had anywhere from 2 to 5 groups, road trips, delegation trips of asset owners. Our network comprises of over $3 trillion of assets under management, with pension plans, endowments, foundations, family offices in the US. We are also working with DFIs, both in the US and internationally, and obviously being supported by USAID. And so what we want to do and what we plan to do as part of the investment support is to prepare you to speak and to present before institutional investors, asset allocators, LPs, that are interested in allocating funds specifically to women-owned managers and specifically in programs and projects that impact women, with a focus on gender lens investment, financial inclusion, job creation, and stability for communities, especially within focus on Southern Africa. And so we are looking to mobilize at least $20 million into our program participants. We are looking to do that by July of next year. As you all know, it takes a while for the approval process to happen. And so we want to start that as soon as possible. So we want to start that this fall, as soon as the technical assistance part of the program starts rolling out in June. We are going to start that as soon as this fall so that the relationship building happens. Melanie talked about the importance of trust, the importance of relationship building, the importance of them understanding who you are, gaining that trust, understanding that your background and your experience will be value added to their portfolio, to their plan, and how they see themselves working alongside you going forward for a long-term relationship. The goal here is not just a one-time investment, is to build a long-term investment so that they can help you grow as you help them grow their bottom line for their investment returns. So we see this partnership working hand to hand. SAVCA with their previous program has been very successful, taking the best practices from that program, incorporating with our relationship, and to be able to pull in facilitators, advisors from the US so that you can ask those direct questions of consultants and institutional investors from the US to make sure that you're hearing directly from them and that you're prepared for an international audience.
Thanks, Nadine. So I guess the question from everybody, sorry, Mametja, is how do you apply? When do you apply by? What do you need to do? Okay, so I've put in the chat box, I've put our website address where we've hosted all the information in respect of the program. It's there in your chat, and I'm also adding our dedicated email address where you can send any questions to. So what do we have on our website? We have a link to the application, we have a link to frequently asked questions, and we also have a link to the design, the technical design, so you can start having a look at how much time this is going to take from you and when we will be looking to roll out the technical assistance as a start. So let's talk about the application quickly. It is a Google form, and I want to encourage every single one of you tonight, if this is something that you are interested in and you are thinking about doing it, stop thinking, do it is my first requirement. And my second one is that you still go and visit our website this evening and go and have a look at that Google form and go and download the 2 supporting documents that sits in the Google folder that you'll be directed at when you click on the link. Those two Word documents that you are going to be required to fill out are quite substantive, and they relate particularly to your fund and particularly to your fund management business. And why are they substantive? I think, given what we said, you'll recognize that we are looking for persons who already have a clear idea of what their fund should look like, what that fund mandate should look like, and have already identified team members and have worked with those team members for some time in terms of establishing a fund management business and executing on this fund mandate. So, click on the link tonight, go and have a look at the Google form, and go and have a look at the 2 Word documents that supports this Google form that is focused on your fund and its mandate and is focused on your fund management business. And if you think that we are being harsh in the way that we've represented these forms, know that, and I'm sure the ladies will share with you, know that a due diligence by an asset consultant and or a limited partner will be more harsh than what you'll see in our application form. So if you can make it through the application process, you stand a very good chance of, through getting the technical assistance, making a success at tagging into the institutional support facility that Nadine has been talking to. But please send through your questions to our dedicated email address. Go and have a look at that website, and don't fear, just do it. So don't fall into the trap of imposter syndrome or, oof, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Just do it. What's the worst that can happen? We say thank you very much, but you didn't make it. The process alone will be well worth its while.
Thank you, Melanie, and thanks, Nadine. Having been part of the SAVCA Fund Manager Program, I cannot emphasize enough how this helps, not only on technical skills, because I think some companies would have those skills, but building confidence but also actually leapfrogging from where you were before the program to where you want to be. And earlier, as we're talking with the ladies, we spoke about how us as women sometimes, we wait till we are 100% ready to start. I guess it's time to actually change that narrative and start before you're even 100% ready. So as Melanie and Nadine have explained, please, ladies, go ahead and download those applications and complete them. I know we are having this on the 4th and they're already due on the 10th, but there is plenty of time, 24 hours in a day. So I'm sure that you guys can still apply. Now I'm going to turn to Bui and Moshe. I've known the ladies and I know their journeys, and I know that they have interesting stories to share as well. So I guess the first question is, how did you start? Give us a snapshot of your journey in 5 minutes of where you started, where you are now, how big your funds are, or how many investments you've done. And let's start the conversation then, and we'll pick it up from there.
Okay, I'll go first, Moushmi. Thanks, Mametja. So my journey in private equity was sparked, earlier on in my career as an articles clerk when I was, within the, banking space, auditing banks and private equity firms. I then moved on to corporate finance in the corporate finance advisory environment. And I think that was a good platform for me for this space because, that's where I harnessed, my skills on deal making and what's important to get a deal right. And also, where I learned how to build, relationships, trusted and meaningful relationships with a wide range of people and audience. And that's where I also built up my, my resilient muscle, which is a critical element in this business, particularly as a first-time fund manager and as a Black female as well. Underrepresentation of Black female, or even just, just female female managed and owned fund managers, is very evident within the South African environment. And, coming into the space was definitely for me, a no-brainer because there is an opportunity. And, even when, our own clients within the corporate finance space were looking for, businesses to partner with, or, female Black-owned private equity firms to partner with, there were very few and far between. So it was the opportunity is very clear, and that's how I moved into the space. I started off my career, this journey 5 years ago with 3 other partners. We embarked on fundraising with the intention to raise capital within a year. With the experience we had, it's quite possible, right? And a year or 2 later, we still, hadn't managed to raise the capital. And even when we did raise the capital after a period of about 2 years, 2.5 years, it was very much, inadequate in terms of building a sustainable, fund manager. It was a fraction of what we had intended to raise. And that just gives you a sense of how tough, the fundraising environment is. So we raised our capital, we deployed the capital, and the partnership, did not work out, and had to reestablish in a different form in 2018 as Kazi Capital. And having learned my experience, with fundraising and knowing what investors look for, I think the strategy for Kazi Capital was really to build a track record as a team, in terms of doing deals in the market, even without the committed capital, as well as, building a very solid pipeline that would, attract, the investors. Fortunately, I think due to our relationships, in the investment community, as well as, financial institutions, we were able to invest in some businesses. And in 2019, we invested in 2 businesses, which we've been managing for the past 2 years. And in December last year, even during a COVID period, we managed to add another business to our portfolio company. And this is all, without any committed capital, in pursuit of, putting together a structure that speaks for itself, when it comes to, selling ourselves to the investors. We also have managed through this process to be part of the FNB Black Business Growth Funding Platform, which is, I can say it's Kazi Capital's first close, because we now can say we've got some committed capital, and hopefully that will stand us in good state going forward. So that has been my journey in this space so far. It's been far from what I anticipated or envisaged when I left, my formal employment. There's been, great challenges along the way, heartbreaks, failed partnerships. It has been a very, very challenging journey, but also very fulfilling, and also there have been, doors that have been opened to us that have kept us going, and also just knowing and having the vision and knowing the importance of the work that we are doing in building females within the space, such that the next generation of fund managers are not faced with similar issues that we are faced with. So that has been what's kept me going. And also being part of the fund manager development program has made the space less lonely, because it can be, as an entrepreneur, you can feel very isolated, and being part of a program like that, and I would encourage future fund managers as well to participate in WEMI, because beyond just all the technical support that they provide you and all the access to capital, is building that network of other fund managers in the space, where you can now be part of a bigger community, and you can co-invest and share ideas and and assist each other along the way. So that has been part of my journey. What's clear is that it definitely hasn't been an easy road, but we're hopeful for a very successful future.
Thanks, Bui, and I like that. It might be difficult, but very fulfilling. And I love the war stories as well, but it's through grit that you make it in this industry. So it's tough being an entrepreneur as a start, but being an entrepreneur in private equity just is a double whammy, but it's really worth it. I mean, I know the Sanari team and I, we started around the same time, and we used to even have what we used to call the office, which was kind of support for each other as women in business and in investments and private equity. So over to you, Moshe.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. And just to take you through the Sanari journey and also my personal journey, because I think it's quite important to link the two. So personally, I'm a CA similar to Bui and Mametja, and I always had an interest in building businesses, didn't really know how to do it, and did my articles at PwC, got to learn more about business, and then went on to investment banking on the debt side and got introduced to private equity. And along that journey, I met Sam, who essentially is the brainchild around Sanari Capital, and she convinced me to use private equity as a means to do a lot of good. And when we met, it was really just around how do we make an impact in South Africa, a positive impact. And really private equity was the vehicle that we chose to use in order to play out that vision. And so that's where the journey began. And in the early days, similar to Bui, we went and we tried to fundraise and capital raises in front of LPs. A lot of them were said to us, sorry, my daughter's waving. So this is part of the the journey where you get to be part mom, and part of the journey is also why we do it. We do it because our kids are watching, and so they literally are watching, and why we want to build out this this vision. So back to my Sanari story is we sat and we went through to investors. A lot of investors said, well, have you worked together? What is your track record? Why would we give you money? And that was really just, we kept on getting a lot of closed doors, and it was about the persistence and carrying on. And really it's about the partnership. So when Melanie talks about having a team that you can trust, it's so real, because that's your support. You pretty much are responsible for each other, and you go out and you have to have a lot of trust in the journey that you're going to take. And thereafter we decided, well, you know, let's just start doing deals and building our track record. And Mametja can attest to this, where she sat on our IC and she went through, and we were definitely each other's support through the journey. And so we did our first 2 investments, really getting a small pool of capital through friends, family, high net worth individuals, whoever, big borrow kind of journey. And then we closed our first two investments, and then we went on, and we then were quite fortunate to get working capital funding. And I think that was quite catalytic for us, because it enabled us to grow out a team, and also then become a more established business in the market, building out our brand. And people started recognizing us as a team that was going to stay for the long haul. I think that's quite important when LPs see you. One of the reasons why they take their time in due diligencing is because they want to know that the team will stick together and will have the grit to go through it for the next 10, 20 years as they invest in you through multiple funds. And as we stand today, we've got 6 investments under our belt. We're busy raising our first fund, which is a 1 billion to 1.5 billion rand fund, and we've got a couple of commitments under our belt and in due diligence. So that's just the Sanari journey. And I think there's the personal journey where, you know, as women, and as Mametja says, we always want to be perfect. We want to be 100% before we present ourselves. And it speaks to Nadine's point about showing trust, and it's really about being confident to the LPs, because when you're confident with yourself and your value proposition, LPs tend to trust you because they feel, and it's about coming across that way, which sometimes as women, I think we always shy away, and we always self-doubt, and we always question ourselves. And then there's also the other element of being a mom, in my case, or just a woman, where you feel like you're being torn between your home life and your personal life. And I must say, by just staying the course, my family has adopted the fact that I can be here today, sitting presenting, while my husband's being, he calls it daddy daycare, but looking after the kids. And so you kind of create this ecosystem where your children kind of grow up and say, well, you know, it is possible because mom's doing it. So I don't have to be a stay-at-home mom, or I can go and be an owner and a fund manager, or go build my own business. So it is really part of the whole ethos, is that our kids are watching, and we do it not only for ourselves, but for the next generation, to create that path for them. So that's my story.
Thank you, Moushmi. Yeah, there are a number of things that I picked up, one of them being, you know, shared vision, because that's what, when all fails and you're not raising the money, and there's no working capital, and you have late nights, what makes you stick together is shared vision that goes beyond just putting money to work in investments. And I like the whole thing around the team. Yeah, building a sustainable business takes the right team. So thank you for that. And for the future generations, the women that come after us, the young girls that one day, hopefully their path will be easier than ours in carrying out their businesses and being in private equity. Now, Melanie, I just want to bring it back to you, and I want to ask you, what support is out there for fund managers in South Africa? You can speak about in Africa as well, but particularly I would like you to focus on women. What support is out there for women fund managers?
That's such a good question, Mametja, and thank you for asking it. I think the reality is that in South Africa specifically, and we're moving in the right direction across the continent and Southern Africa particularly, is there has been a movement to support emerging managers. So we have seen in recent years the PIC program, the Public Investment Corporation program. We have seen the EPPF via TUSO. We have seen the SAVCA FMDP. So there have been various programs. I think what we haven't seen and where we are seeing a movement towards is it focused on gender-specific support programs. And that really is why we are so excited about this particular program, because it is a first of its kind in this space for women-owned and managed fund managers. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot along the way. So our first cohort is going to be slightly experimental, because really it is the first time that anybody is doing this type of incubation with this type of focus. And why is this important? Is you fail when you aren't intentional around something. So we all ask the question, why is it that more than 50%, and just talking South Africa for the moment, why is it that more than 50% of our country's population is not economically equally active as the other 50%? Because they are women. And that for me is like the saddest thing, because we all know what will happen if you bring that part of the economy which isn't active into the economy, what that would do from an economic perspective. So how do you do that? You start with flow of funds, because usually lack of funding or lack of support, whether it's technical or otherwise, is usually the reason why that component of the economy remains outside of the economy. So let's start at least with one of the things that we can change, which is the flow of funds into that part of the economy that could contribute so hugely into the economy. I know Melinda Gates was topical today for other reasons. I like to think of her because of who and what she is, despite of who she's married to or no longer married to. And Warren Buffett have both said it. You know, we can't be successful economically if 50% of the economy isn't participating in the economy. So let's change that GDP number. Let's triple it from 1.2 trillion US dollars to 6 trillion US dollars. Why not? Let's just bring women into the conversation, really into the conversation. Let's give them a real platform. Let's give them a real voice. And you ask me whether the support systems are there. I think the support systems will be there if we unlock facilitatory programs such as these, because I think then the data will start speaking for itself and it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But then we've got to stand strong. So we shouldn't go back to normal once the pandemic and what we went through over the last 12 months has settled down. We need to be steadfast and we need to see this through.
That is so true, Melanie. And I mean, the SAVCA FMDP program speaks for itself when it comes to that. I don't think a lot of the companies that participated would have been as successful as without the intervention. At least it would have taken much longer. And I remember talking to one of the first African women PE funds that invest in women, and it took them 6 years. I mean, it's hard because it's, you know, where are you getting your working capital, salaries for your employees, getting your family to be sustainable. So I'm glad that you're changing this narrative, and through MiDA as well, bringing those foreign investors and helping them to understand African private equity, female-led private equity firms. That is really important. Mosh, maybe to you in 2 minutes, because I see we are getting into the crux of the conversation, and we need to also open it up to questions. Maybe just, how has the fundraising platform and landscape been, as well as deal origination? Maybe in 2 minutes, if you can.
Sure. So I think in the early years, it was quite difficult, and also coming into COVID, we started seeing traction pre-COVID with our story and LPs starting to be really interested in us. And then COVID, unfortunately, LPs had to look inwards into their portfolios, and some of them ended up having to spend the money recapitalizing some of their portfolio companies. And so now, as things have sort of stabilized, even though we still live in the COVID world, we're starting to see more acceleration and more interest, because a lot of the LPs have waited a year and they still have capital to deploy. So we're starting to see a lot of traction on that end. Also on the deal origination side, we've always been quite fortunate that we've never had a problem on the deal origination side. And I think it's partly because of the size that we invest in, being in the lower to mid-market size, where you especially as people transition through COVID and want to go and explore international markets, they need the capital for growth, and we focus a lot on growth capital. So we've actually been quite fortunate on that end. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for keeping to the time. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that in terms of where you invest, because I think both from Buyi and Moshe, from yourself, and I guess from ourselves as well, there is that niche that people forget about that actually helps companies grow to become bigger and more fundable to the bigger PE players, but more importantly, sustainable for the long run. Nadine, I just want to come to you and ask about the landscape of foreign investors. Is this money really available? I think all of us keep asking ourselves that. And is it available for Africa and women in Africa? So it's a double whammy. On the one side, it's Africa, and do American investors and European investors really understand Africa and the opportunity and see it? And really, I mean, I guess most of the people who want to come into WEMI, they also want to know, will this money really flow into Africa?
So I will rephrase that, a double whammy to a double benefit. So yes and yes. So it's not a double whammy, it's a double benefit. We are in a very fortunate time period right now. The chairman of the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee is Congressman Gregory Meeks, and MiDA hosted him on a town hall last Monday, a fireside chat, and he was very passionate about Africa. He's passionate about trade and investment opportunities with Africa. He's passionate about helping to facilitate funding into Africa, and he's passionate about women. So in answer to your question is yes and yes. He has tasked his committee to identify opportunities for the development of African women, people, infrastructure, as well as looking at opportunities to develop trade. So, we have leadership in the US that is very pro-Africa, which is great. USAID has a very amazing initiative in terms of seeking fund-to-fund structures, working with MiDA and other implementers to help facilitate monies into Africa, as well as specific for women. USAID wants to make sure that the women agenda is at the top of their priority list. And it has been proven that the economic outcomes are more favorable when you're investing through women, with families, with communities, with job creation. And so we want to have that multiplier effect really be realized on the continent. And so you have key people within DFC, within USAID, and then you have key people within the asset allocators themselves. And so actually next week, and I invite you all to participate, NAST and MiDA is hosting a women's forum next week where we'll have women LPs who are looking at allocating funding to women. And so I will share that with you all so that, and I'm gonna ask Melanie or Yipsira, who's on from MiDA, to type that in the chat for me, please, the link for people to register. But we have women LPs who are the CIOs, who are the executive directors, who are in charge, and they're passionate about making sure that women are at the table, but not only at the table, getting their fair share of allocations. So the answer is yes. And this is a great time to be women, and this is a great time to be an African woman. So definitely we want to make sure that you're applying, and it's so important to apply because USAID is seeking, and based on how many people apply, they're going to see we have a demand for this program. There's a need for this program. And someone asked about being able to do this program in other places. If this program is well received and enough people are applying or participating, they're going to see that this type of program, not only is it needed, the commitment is there, and hopefully being able to replicate this in other forms and in other places that is focused on women. And Melanie said this earlier, being intentional about allocating the money to women, not just saying, okay, a piece of it is going to women. No, all of the 20 million will be allocated to women-owned and women-managed funds.
That's phenomenal, Nadine, and I could not agree more. It's such an exciting time to be a woman in this space. I think the world has changed. COVID has also helped people to realize the importance of inclusiveness, of women, of diversity, and ESG, which I think a lot of people took for granted. But I've realized, and the studies have been done by the World Bank, etc., to show that women-led funds or investors actually take this seriously. Yes, it's about returns, but that ESG element and inclusiveness and diversity, I think we take that seriously. And the returns, financial returns, are still at the top. So
Agreed.
that is phenomenal. Buyi, last question to you before we take questions. Maybe share some great joys and war stories. What have been some of the great joys, and what have been some of the challenges of being a fund manager?
Thanks, Mametja. I'll start with the challenges and end off with the good parts. I think challenges. I think being a woman, I need to emphasize this. There is still quite a lot of gender bias out there, and even to a point where during our fundraising process, there were questions around how many children you have, or you're having children, and your level of commitment and longevity is very much questioned. And to be honest, is something that we spoke about with the ladies earlier as well. Being able to wear so many different hats as women is actually a very important skill for an investor. It just shows how dynamic and versatile you are. So the investors need to start, opening up, their minds to that perspective. So that's been one of the challenges. And then the second one is, starting up as a, fund manager, you really don't have adequate capital. And this is something that has been spoken about. So you really have to be a jack of all trades and a master of all, because you have to get them all right. So building an infrastructure, day-to-day management of the business, whilst at the same time you have to fundraise, deploy capital, and manage your portfolio investment. So, it is challenging, but like I said earlier, it can be rewarding as well once all those elements are sorted. The barrier to entry is being a first-time fund manager, to be honest. Regardless of the relevant experience you may have, coming from, big institutions, I think there's a failure to connect your experience to yourself, and rather, that is attributed to the institution you're from. So it does really take time, to build up that confidence. So those have been, like the key challenges that I can mention. And then ultimately, I think the joys, because there are joys, that's why we're still here, that's why we're still standing, and has been seeing, our vision come to fruition, especially within our portfolio companies. seeing transformation and growth within our companies, job creation, very critical for South Africa at the moment, and transforming the management teams, not just from a gender perspective, but also from a race perspective. I think just the case in point in our business, one of our investee companies, we've moved from, I think previously they were a level 5 company, BE, and we've now moved to a level 1, within a period of a year. We've included and in fact employed, 3 senior females into the executive team, and that has been intentional and has been quite clear from day one when we invested in the business that this is what we're going to do. And as a result, the business has grown. It has, received more contracts. There is a lot of talk now about, other aspects in terms of, social elements, the ESG elements. We've put employee wellness programs in place. So as Melanie said, it's been proven that with the women participation, we bring all the elements together and still able to deliver the returns. And I think ultimately the biggest joy is seeing your dream come to, from conception coming into realization. It's a very rewarding experience, and hopefully that will be met with portfolio performance, in when we are at a point where we exit. And at the moment, it's looking very pretty. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bui. I love that element around the bias. It's good to hear Moshe being proud to say my daughter's standing across the other side, because this is safe space. We need more of these safe spaces, and we need men to understand that this is what we need to do, and it does not change whether the outcome and the output. And I really loved what you said about the ESG, and congratulations on that success of bringing the diversity and BE. That's the real transformation that we really need to see on the ground. I'm going to open up to questions. The first question is from Neo Mohesi, and she is asking why startup investment managers usually are in equities, credit and private equity rather than in fixed income. And she's asking whether it's because of the fees and the fact that you need to have, a large assets under management in order to be able to cover your overheads. So if anybody would like to take that question, Nadine, maybe?
Yes, I was actually typing a response in the chat to that question. So I think it's important with regards to, hold on, I was trying to pull this back up again. I think it's important for us to, and who asked the question? I want to make sure for context.
Her name is Nero.
Nero. I'm going to have that. Nero, thank you for that. I think that it is important to have, you're saying with regards to the overhead?
Yeah. So her question is, is it the support leans more towards private equity rather than fixed income? Is it because of the cost and the fact that you need to have high assets under management to be able to cover your costs?
Yes, that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is also with private equity. Some of the DFCs, the DFIs, including DFC, part of their mandate is infrastructure based. And so they want to see the private equity infrastructure asset category. And I know a lot of you in Southern Africa are dealing with this right now with Regulation 28 for infrastructure, but a lot of the DFIs are looking for the infrastructure mandate to help with regards to the economic empowerment, the community stabilization, and the job inclusion. So when you have a stronger infrastructure base, and that is seen through private equity, being able to better mobilize and meet those infrastructure objectives. And so when we look at, from an investment allocation perspective in the US, looking at how do we make bigger impact in what's going on within a community, what's going on within a country. The infrastructure is huge. So when we're talking about, a lot of times we'll see energy, we'll see opportunities for water, we'll see opportunities for education, we'll see opportunities for healthcare. That can help move the needle at a faster pace than, a lot of times when you look at fixed income, debt is not something that they're necessarily looking to capture. There is a component of that, but they're seeing opportunities to help move things at a quicker pace. And also the overhead is a big factor of that as well. So you will see within what we're looking at, there is a potential debt perspective, but really we're focused on infrastructure because as investing in emerging markets, the impact investment is huge. So being able to say, I'm investing for impact, I'm willing to take a lesser return. I still want a return, but I'm willing to take a lesser return because that impact, a part of my mission within emerging markets is the impact as well as the emerging market. And from a US allocator, they're also looking at the diversification within their portfolio. So they're looking at, what's happening in my emerging markets can help offset, potential drags that I'm experiencing in the US as well. Sorry, I thought you were actually asking a different question. I was responding to a different question on my chat.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for that, Nadine. So I guess, ladies, if you're out there and you're into infrastructure, there's another big opportunity in there. So please do apply to the program. I know we keep saying it a number of times, but we really do want everybody to apply. So Fulu, your question has already been answered by Melanie of whether this program is only for first-time fund managers, and the answer is do apply, and it will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. I see that other than those two questions, everybody's just grateful for this webinar. So I see excellent webinar. Stay focused on your goals and investment mandate. So thank you very much. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Nadine. And I think this program is really what we need at this point in time in Africa. And I'm not going to close off by that. I'm going to ask everybody to give their closing remarks. I know we are almost about to run out of time. So everybody, if you can give us, say 5 minutes, and I will ask everyone to just say their closing remarks. Starting with you, Melanie. I'm starting from my top where I see people's faces. Yeah.
Perfect. So first, again, just thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk more about our program. Secondly, ladies, I never get this from any male applicants. They never question whether they're good enough and whether they've got value to add. You are good enough, you do have value to add, so please just click on that link and go and complete that application form. If you are uncertain about anything, drop us a mail. You've got our email address in the chat box, please. I mean, we need to put eligibility requirements in there because we need to draw the line somewhere. But there might be peculiar circumstances that addresses the requirement in a different way or could address the requirement over a period of time. So please, I encourage you to, what's the worst that could happen? I'll send you an email back. It says, sorry, not this time round. Nothing lost, but a lot gained. So please, 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 I'm going to encourage you again. That's all I've got to say. I encourage everybody to just at least have a look at the form and then build up the courage to fill it out and send it through to us. We are super excited about this program. We are so excited at receiving your applications. We are so grateful to be partnering with such a well-qualified and well-positioned partner such as MiDA, and we are eternally grateful for the trust that USAID has put in us and this program, and by osmosis, every single one of the applicants through giving us the financial resources to do this. So apply, 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 and thank you for the platform.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you actually for joining us as well. I think as ABSIP, transformation, as you know, is critical to us. And one of the best ways to transform is actually starting your own businesses, because you can choose who comes in and choose the platform that you create. So again, ladies, apply, 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 as Melanie said. Buyisiwe?
I think for me, the message, I think it's been said so many times that, you know, in women empowerment has such a big, you know, multiply effect, you know, and with where we are in South Africa in terms of joblessness and the challenges that we're facing, we definitely need to bring, our, boldness as women into the face to actually, grow the economy. So yeah, be bold and apply and participate. And there is a community that has started already. You're not going to be on your own on this journey. And yeah, we're happy for people to reach out and have coffees, build a network. We're there to support as well, as we have been supported as well along this journey. So thanks.
Thanks, Bui, for that. And everybody do go to Kazi Capital and grab those coffees and get the support that you need. And I agree, Bui. We're all here because someone actually decided to lift us up, and we need to do that for someone else out there. Moushmi?
Yeah, so to echo what Bui said, we're a big community. You're not on your own. And that's what's so special about a program like this and what SAVCA and MiDA are trying to do is that you're part of a cohort, you're part of a group, and together you go through the struggles. And trust me, there are dark moments, and it's your cohort that will lift you up and your community. So get in touch, tell us about your journey, and please do apply to this initiative.
Thank you, Moshe. And yeah, we are all a big community. And last but not least, Nadine.
Well, thank you, ladies, first for welcoming me into your community. I want to say thank you so much. I love the African hospitality, especially in Southern Africa, so thank you. And I invite you to join our community within the US. We are a global community. We've become even more global with Teams and Zoom, even more ability to stay connected. Some of you, and I see some names that I recognize, some of you we've met at the SAVCA conference in person last year, and so excited to reconnect. Some of you have done a great job staying connected. Sanari Capital, we've stayed connected over the last year despite being so far away. But what we want to do is really help to move the needle. Money moves the needle. It's great to have relationships. It's great to stay connected, and that's so important. One of my mentors said, meet them before you need them. You want to meet those people before you need them. You want to get to a point where you don't have to ask for money. They will say, you know what? I love what you're doing. We talk about being bold, being confident. I love how you're doing it. You should come and present before us. And so again, staying in front of people, having those relationships, having those conversations. And I think that actually going through this COVID unfortunate pandemic has forced the men to see how much women do juggle because they're at home working. So they hear the kids now, they see how much women are doing. And I think that's helping to turn the needle on some of those biases, some of those biases in terms of, well, the woman's not doing so much. No, they're doing so much more than and so much more than you. So ladies, you are strong, you are amazing. I applaud you. And again, I welcome you. And I encourage you to apply. This is an amazing program. There's monies to be had. And I don't want to say it's free money, but you're going to work. You're going to, work to be a part of this program. But what you get out of this, it will help propel your company forward. And so we want to see you succeed. The reason why we're doing this is because we want to see more women fund managers being at a stage that they can invest on an international level, and they can qualify for due diligence and pass due diligence on an international level. So we want you to be ready for this. We're excited. We're excited to see, I want to see at least, half of the group from the cohort being from these names on the participant list right now. And we're excited to kick our program off in mid-June. So thank